Hello everyone and welcome to my guide for the Veteran Maelstrom Arena. So this dungeon obviously is one of the most demanded solo contents. I have had countless people ask me to make a guide on this dungeon, and I have ran this so many times at this point, probably closing in on 200 runs, I think 185 last count. And so I thought I would share with you all of the tactics, tips and tricks, how to get there, from basically a beginner level to a slightly more advanced level. And we're not talking getting like the world's best time here or specific builds. If you do want that stuff, it is on my channel somewhere, especially the builds. But it's just giving you the general overview and how I approach the tactics. Now, some of you might have different tactics. This video is obviously not for you. This is for the people who truly need it. So this dungeon is located in the northeast of Hrothgar. You'll find it up there. And the sort of drops you're looking at getting are the Maelstrom weapons. That's why a lot of people want this. Just make sure you set it to veteran, port in, and you are ready to go. Quick tip outside, take the quest. If it's your first time, you can get in with the quest to repeat it, rather than if you leave part way, having to start again completely. And also the chick next to her can repair if you do have problems, sell you soul gems and that sort of stuff. So anyway, we're going in right now, and we're going to start this dungeon and quickly explain the sigils. So once I get through this loading screen. On our left, we have the first sigil when it eventually spawns, because apparently the game is lagging. Only a second now. So this is the sigil of power. What this one does, it increases your damage tremendously, so that one's always worth taking if you are struggling. The next one is the sigil of haste. This will increase your stamina recovery and movement speed. The next one is Sigil of Life. This one will increase your health recovery, helping you survive a lot. And the final one, more important than any of the others in my opinion, is obviously the Tanky Sigil. That's going to help you a lot if you are struggling. So basically, these sigils are what you want to use if you are taking a lot of damage, if you're struggling. They do affect your score, and your score will come into play a bit. But generally, it will help you a lot to get through the dungeon if you are struggling with any of the mechanics. You can obviously take those sigils. It will give you a big buff to your stats for a short duration. You can only use each one once per round, I believe, but it does help if you are struggling. What would I say the hardest waves are? Obviously not the one I'm currently on. This one is pretty easy. There's a few basic mechanics here. There's an Atronach, there's Daedroth, Scamp, and a few different types of Dremora. Generally, I would focus the archers just in case they use a snipe on you, but that's very kind of low damaging compared to later mechanics. And the only other mechanic to pay attention to is this orb that's flying around right now. So you'll see that behind me. I'm just sort of kiting around, and that's simply your best strat for wave 1. Just kite it around. It will follow you. It does a bit of a dot. It's honestly not enough to one-shot you, but yeah, it's important that you make sure you avoid that damage. So general tactics on this one. One of the big things I would advise is sitting next to one of the spawns. You'll see exactly like I'm doing now. I'm placing my dots ahead of time on the spawn, especially for the bigger mobs. What that does is it means you can kill one before it's spawned, which just narrows it down. I would always suggest playing single target, though that doesn't mean you can't use an AoE dot. Focusing one enemy down throughout the whole of the trial, by the way, really does help with the content. It's just about removing a struggle in the dungeon. The more mobs you have on you, essentially, the harder life is. But yeah, I mean, this wave, not too much going on. If you are struggling on this, we'll ignore my hardcast there. Then you do just have to basically practice the mechanics and all of that. So just keep focusing, carefully playing the rounds, focus on the mobs, avoid the AoE, and you'll eventually get to the boss, which is coming up pretty soon. You'll notice again, constantly, I'm placing my synergies up, keeping all my dots on the ground underneath. This build, by the way, is on my channel. It's called the easiest Maelstrom build ever. So if you do want a simple way to get through this, especially in the Morrowind patch, this should hopefully get you there. So anyway, boss is going to spawn. So boss has a few simple mechanics. First of all, again, the AoE is going to stay. We're going to place all of our dots up, including our ulti, just as he spawns. We're going to place our elemental drain on for sustain and then focus the boss. What this boss will do, as you're seeing right now, is it will summon an ad. So the first ad is very, very easy. You're going to have an AoE from your ulti already on him. The first ad is just going to melt. You'll then move to the next spawn and focus him down. Now, if your damage is slow, you might not get through it quite as quick as I am here. But what you're trying to basically do is minimize your time with the ads, because what the ads will do if you do have slow DPS is heal the boss in burst. Gonna open the chest now. This is obviously how you get the loots. A lot of different possibilities of loot here. You can get sort of Hunt, Permafrost, Winterborn. There's a few different sets. None of them particularly exciting compared to the weapons, though I have used a Winterborn in the past. We got some shit there. And then we can also go to this guy again between waves if you are struggling. by repairing, you can obviously do that, as well as some basic potions in there. So again, easy wave there. Let's go on to wave 2. It's a bit more complicated to explain. So wave 2, basic mechanics. The center is a no-go zone. If we do stand in that lightning field just around me on the middle, it does a lot of damage. It punishes you pretty hard. So do avoid the middle completely. Around the outside, you're going to see a lot of these spinning discs, and these spinning discs do a building up dot. So the longer you're in them, the bigger that dot is going to be. If you sit in that dot, you are going to take a lot of heat. You're going to die pretty swiftly. So really make sure that you are avoiding those. My best advice is stay around where I am right now on the middle pinion. A lot of the bigger mobs will generally spawn in, such as that Centurion right there. And you can also kite just the outer spinner that way. Obviously, you're going to take the odd hit, but as long as you don't stay in them for too long, you won't build up too much of a dot, and it's not going to be quite as bad for you. The other mob that's important to focus here is the one I just killed there. So these little dwellers that nearly die in one shot. What they do is they build up quite an electric charge. It does hit very hard, so it's very good to get rid of those kind of early. The Dwemer that I just killed there, that one's got a ranged attack, so again, he can be a bit more of focus. The normal Dwemer's not much of a worry in this one. They're definitely going to be your last target, I would say. And then we do have these bigger ones again. Just make sure you block or avoid the heavy attack somehow. It does hit pretty hard, or keep your shields up and you should be fine. And again, same tactics before. Camp that one spawn, keep your dots down, and melt through the ads. The reason I stay on this center pinion then is that, first of all, this is where the boss will spawn. So in that north corner is where the first boss will spawn. That's after round 3, of course. And secondly, it's just giving you easy access to both the sides. You can dot up the middle, focus the left, and then move to the right afterwards. So it just saves you a bit of struggle on the waves. Kind of simplify the round a bit for you. But it's all about your movement here. As long as you keep kiting those outer things, again, this wave is not too hard. It's one of the easier rounds. If you're struggling, by the way, in any of the rounds I'm trying to explain, just ask in the description. I do my best to keep on top of the YouTube comments. If you're going to say you could do this better, you could do this better, I'm not going to lie, it's not that sort of video. I know there's things I could improve. I'm just trying to make this as beginner friendly as possible. Well, not necessarily beginner, but to any level that people would actually need to do this at a basic standard, you know? So, this boss will spawn here. They have a few possible mechanics. The first is the heavy attack, block, dodge, or shield through that. The second one is the mechanic you're seeing here, which is what I would call sort of a meteor. Just kite around a bit, move around a little bit, same as with the spinners, and you won't take any damage from that. It is quite a hefty hit if it does hit you. Again, you'll see this one doing it. You'll see them sort of falling around me. It will always target on you, but as long as you are still moving, it will not hit you. Now, these work in a rotating shield. Here we go. Here's another one of the mechanics. We've obviously got the spin there. Just make sure that you are obviously avoiding the spin. Easy. Avoid the AoE, no problem. The last mechanic that I'd like to see is sort of a breath. So you'll see that come out in front of the boss. I'm sure we'll get that in a sec. Here we go there. And just make sure that you avoid the damage from that again by stepping to the side. So pretty easy on that. The way that the boss works is it has a shield around it, so just make sure that you are focusing the ones unshielded. Only one is unshielded at a time. Now, if you do have enough DPS, you can actually burst down the first one very quickly. It's rare to do that because it does rely on the boss getting the right mechanic as well. It's not easy to do, but don't fuss about it. Just make sure you're focusing the one about the shield. You don't have to be the world's best DPS here. You can get through this in any build, by the way. You can get through this in a PvE build. Even I've done it in my PvP build. It doesn't have to be the best build in the world. You're going to need an okay damage, but you don't need the world's best. So there you go. Simple. Focus the one about the shield down. Move around all of the AoEs and you're fine. Again, we could loot or repair there, but for now on, we're going to just skip that because I don't really need any of the drops. It's just for the guide. Go for this portal. We move to round 3. Round 3 is pretty simple on mechanics, but we start to see a lot of mini bosses at the start of this. So where I'm shooting now is around the edge of these islands, and in there is the water. The water will get a static charge around it. What that static charge will do, which you see coming in a second. He says carefully, hoping the water eventually does it. There you go. Is gets a lightning field on it. So if you're in that, you take a lot of damage. You want to make sure you stay on the islands. There's actually no reason to ever stand on the water. If you just jump across the gap, you can completely avoid that. So you can stay on the islands all the time. The next big thing in this is the plants, which you'll see just to my right now, just off screen dying. It's very important that you kill those. They do a small amount of damage, but what they'll do is they'll drag you in the water. They'll snare you a lot. They're a real pain in the ass, putting it simply. So make sure that you get rid of them as quickly and effectively as possible. Obviously on that first wave you also saw a mini boss. What that one does is big lizard. It'll basically stick like a lightning field, much similar to the breath from the Dwemers in the last round. Step to the side of it and kill it. It doesn't really do that much. And again, same as before, we're picking an island, staying on it, placing our dots and focusing one of the others so the first one dies in our dots. Single targeting ads is definitely the way to go for every single wave in this dungeon. Single target makes life a lot easier. I was always told to AoE in a couple of the rounds. I've got to say, it's not the best way. Always single target the enemies. It will make your stress so much less. The less there is on you, the less damage you'll take. So anyway, next boss. This one does a heavy attack, sort of a wrecking blow type thing. Make sure you block that. That's what we call the bullshit blow. And then it'll also stick a lightning AoE around that. So block the wrecking blow / heavy attack and avoid the AoE, and then focus the ads. In terms of ads priority, you've got a couple of different types. You've got the snakes, the plants, and the lamias. First focus, always the plants. If you see a plant up and they'll spawn either side of the 3 islands, kill it instantly. And then I generally would say focus the lamias over the snakes. Snakes normally kind of out the way of you, and the lamias do spawn a second ad, which although it doesn't hit that hard, is a bit of annoying, a bit of an annoyance that you see there. So make sure if you do get those sort of spiritual ones, you just ignore those. Focus the main ad. When you kill the main one, it will die. And then kill the snakes afterwards. The snakes, by the way, will have a heal. So if you see the snake curl up in a ball, if your damage is low, just bash it and it will interrupt the heal. Otherwise, you could have some problems there. So this mini-boss is a more annoying one here. I don't know if we'll see the mechanics. I generally burn through it pretty fast, but it's got a few different ones. The first one it can do is a pull, and it happens sometimes at the start of the wave. I'm lucky that it did not here, and it will pull you into the water. If you are quick, you can block that and it will stop it dragging, and then the boss will come to you. Just be very careful that you don't stay in the water. Most of the time it is going to get the pull clearly. Don't stay in. The other one it has is a black shield around it that will reflect all casted projectiles. Just make sure that you are not casting on it there. Focus the ads or whatever in that time. And yeah, then you can burst through. So anyway, final boss of this one. There's a few things going on at this point. So this boss has a few mechanics. First of all, it's got the scream, which you see there. That will CC you. It will do a decent amount of damage if you sit in there. So CC break, your automatic keys for that can be right click, left click for the PC. I don't know for the console, to be honest. CC break, get out of it fast and move away. The other one that you're seeing is obviously this AoE around it. That's happening through every wave, by the way. It does kind of annoy you. It snares you. It does a bit of damage, but it's nothing too bad. And again, if your damage is slow, focus pets and ads first. The little flowers. You don't have to do what I did there, burning the boss. You can focus the plants down if you're slow. So don't feel rushed. If your damage is slow, focus the ads, focus the plants exactly the same as before, and just slowly work on the boss. You don't have to rush through. Next one, pretty simple, this one up until the boss. There's one important mechanic that I will actually let get up at some point. I'll tell you when I do. So, generally speaking, this is more of a Dwemer round. There are these guys with the 2-handers, Maelstrom things. But what you'll see is a lot of sort of Dwemer mechanics, similar to round 2, but different. So, what will happen, same as round 2, is we get those little ones that spawn the lightning out of them. The really low health one that we kill right there. If those get to the center, they start a small channel that you can't interrupt, but you can kill them in, which will form a shield around them. So you need to make sure that you break that shield if it does come up. You can break it, or you just avoid that side until the shield drops. It will drop over time. But what it basically does is makes the ad very difficult to kill. It's kind of better if you can keep on top of them, and they do spawn randomly around the room, so just keep kiting around that center, looking around the spawns. But you don't want to let them get set up, really, because the lightning AoE from it will nearly one-shot. It hits very, very hard, and you just want to try to get rid of them as much as possible. So there's another one there, nearly setting up. Make sure we kill him. The other ads that we have, pretty similar, are the flame mages. Very much similar to the first round. We're going to focus those pretty quick. The AoE is starting to hit a bit harder now. The normal Dwemer spiders are a bit more important now, because they can do a buff on their fellow ads, but I still would generally focus them last, just because my damage is high enough to. If they are letting that shield up, I would suggest getting them down pretty quick, because they can buff up the ads pretty strong, and you don't really want that happening. We do again have those Dwemer spheres. They hit pretty hard, focus them, and of course these mini bosses. None of the mini bosses are especially hard in this round. They're almost all pretty low health. Generally mages. There's one with a 2-hander in the second last wave. You can keep on top of them pretty good. By the way, there's one that set up a shield. That was actually an accident, but we'll get rid of him. So you'll see my pet taking him down. That shield will eventually drop just by there, and we can quickly kill him. But just avoiding that lightning AoE to minimize damage. As I was saying about the bosses, so the 2 mini bosses you're going to see generally are the flame mages and the lightning mages. Very low damage, very low health, only like 300, 400k. You can kill them in a couple of seconds with good damage. Just burn them down, get rid of them, and you're fine. The one you'll see in the last round is more of a 2-hander mob. So he'll spawn with 2 flame mages next to him and wrecking blow spam. Block the wrecking blow as per usual. That's obviously his big 2-hander swing from by his hip. It'll whack you up in the air. It will CC you and hit really hard. Better you don't get hit by that. Shit, I let another guy come up. And just make sure, again, that you're killing the mages around them at the same time. So I would normally place an AoE path across them and focus the boss, and the ads will basically die in the AoE. But each to their own. You can focus the mages if your damage is slow. The important bit is just make sure you're blocking that Wrecking Blow, because that's going to be the only real challenge of this section, apart from, of course, these lightning spheres. Make sure you keep on top of the lightning spheres. And yeah, it's pretty easy. So there he is. There's the two-handed guy. He does also have that Flame Breath. I forgot to mention that. It doesn't really hit anything. We're going to block the Wrecking Blow and avoid the static charge from the center. And then we're just going to burn him down. The ad's already dead in our AoE nearly. Yeah, simple really. We're going to quickly kill this before the boss. So we do have these spheres set around. We do have a mage. We're not going to rush killing anything, because obviously the boss only spawn when the final ad's gone. So we want to make sure we get the spheres out the way. You don't really want them on the boss. Boss finally getting a bit more complicated. So this has a few phases. First phase is the green shield, and it sometimes bugs. We'll see if it bugs in a sec. Of course it bugged. You won't always see it, but essentially in this phase, while he's moving automatically at the start, he's got a green shield under him. Sometimes it's hard to see that. You need to stay under the boss, or you're going to take a large dot. I would generally suggest ignoring ads here. Even with a lower DPS, you can normally get through this boss pretty fast if you're keeping any relative damage on him. After the shield phase, you'll get what's called the fire phase here. So you'll see him place that large fire AoE underneath him. At that point, you need to move away from the boss, out of sight of him. I'm generally kiting all of the ads as much as possible. If your damage is super low, focus the spheres spawning in the center. Ignore the normal ads. It's not a worry to do that. But just to make sure that you're avoiding the fire, staying under the boss in the green phase, and when the fire phase comes up, just kite those big fireballs that he fires around. So, next wave is going to be the hardest wave of the dungeon, in my opinion. There's another one that gets close to it. This one is very mob intensive, so if you are struggling on this, remember those buffs I explained, especially the defense buff, and I will tell you when you might want to take that in this wave. First two, pretty easy. A few different mobs in there. The second and third, not so easy. They're a little harder. There's some pretty hard-hitting stuff in there. And not complicated mechanics, but stuff you're going to have to be careful of. So anyway, we're going to go in. The very first thing we're going to do is two ads here. So what you want to do is place a lightning path or whatever AoEs you have across them both, just to help your start DPS. Focus down one of them with a single target, and then just clear up the other one, as you see there. Move to the next platform. We're going to have our first annoying mob, and that's the mage on our right. So you probably won't see the mechanic, because I'll kill him pretty fast. But what he can do is like a massive ice AoE scream. It's so important that you do not stand in that. It will one-shot you. You will die if you sit in that AoE. So if you see it do that, move the hell away from that ad. The boss on this one is very basic. This one doesn't really do any damage. It'll turn into a werewolf. It'll heal, but that's about it. So you can kill this one as slow as fast as you like. Definitely don't waste an ulti on it. We're then going to see the troll, and he is the main mechanic of this dungeon. You'll see me bashing him just there. So what he will do is he will move to each of the islands in turn randomly from the middle spawn. And what you need to do is kill him or interrupt him as much as you can, but you will need to kill him eventually before he stomps on the island. If he does do that, he will break the island. You'll get sort of a mini-boss Lemiad spawn in the middle. You're going to have to kill that, and it also means you only have 2 islands on. By the way, that's something I forgot to mention. Don't stay in the water. If you stay in the water, you're going to die very, very quickly. So don't stay in the water. It does a lot of damage. Stay on the islands. And that's why you want to keep on top of the trolls. This wave, much the same. Just basic ads there. And then we do get our ice troll here. Again, not really worth wasting the ulti. It does hit a little harder with the AoE. But unless you're stupid and standing inside it, you should not have a problem with this one. The next wave is where it gets harder. So we're going to quickly kill this troll first. There we go. So, next wave, you're going to see that first portal on the right, and this one without a portal. We're going to place an AoE across there to make sure we kill the sort of Lamiad thing. Then the Atronach is where you're going to have problems. If you are struggling with this round, take the life boost at the start of this section here. Do not take the shield boost. You're then going to kill the Atronach. He's going to be your main focus. Your AoE will kill the other stuff. Get rid of the Atro fast. He hits hard. Keep an eye out for those trolls and start working through the other ads on the next island. You'll notice again I move island to island to island and keep on top. This is where you would take the shield buff if you are struggling. I would still focus the Atro here, but keep an eye on that mage. The mage obviously can hit very hard, so if you can get rid of him pretty fast like I do there, do so. You don't want that AoE coming from him. It hits very, very hard. You will take a lot of damage here if you play this slow. You can do it with slow DPS. Again, you have those buffs available if need be. Next round, so we're going to get a giant and a mage here. We're going to place an AoE across. Make sure you avoid the giant's AoE and focus down the giant ASAP. If you can get that giant down before the second one gets there, your life is going to be a million times easier. If your damage is slow, I would suggest taking the shield buff at the start of this round. Before that, you are going to suffer. Otherwise, they hit very, very hard, especially when there's a mage with them. After you've killed that mage and the two giants, not much going on. And then we're going to get a boss here, which is another giant and a mage on the far left island. You can generally ignore this mage just because it's so far away for a decent amount of time. It will hit a little bit, but not too much of a worry. The bears don't hit much. Just make sure that you avoid that sort of 5-tiered frontal AoE from this boss when he does the hammer down. Again, keep out for the giants. I nearly messed this one up. Shit, there we go. And yeah, just keep on top of them, and then you can kill the mage at the end on this section. So normally he'll stay away from you if you do stay on the island, and you'll be fine. So, final boss. This boss has a few phases, 75%, 50%, and 10%. It will start to break your island. It will do a scream and break your island. So you'll see that on the first island here, 75%. Adds, by the way, will spawn at about 80%. So if your damage is slow, what I would suggest to do is kill the boss slowly, and then focus down the adds. You'll see it on my right early without killing the boss. If your damage is too fast, you'll see him do his stomp right there. You can just ignore the adds. I generally do if your damage is good. Keep your focus on the boss, sort of kill them while he's out of range. And you'll see him break the island there and spawn that big Lamade I told you about with the trolls. By the way, on this, it's very important you don't let the trolls get a clean stomp on the island. If they break an island, you're going to die. So don't let them do that. We've now got another mage spawning on the island we were originally at, so you can have some problems there. We're going to place our ulti on the last platform. I would always advise saving your ulti for the last platform because you're going to have a lot of adds by that point. You do want to get rid of them pretty swiftly, and it's going to burn down the boss. If your DPS is slow in this final section, you may have some problems. At 10%, that boss can be a nightmare because he is going to get a clean stomp on that platform. At 10%, he will do that. It's automatic. Doesn't matter how fast or slow your DPS, 10% he will stomp. So make sure that you get a burn on the boss. If you don't, make sure you're very careful in the water. Shield, execute. Shield, execute, repeat. Don't rush the DPS. Try get him down carefully. It's going to be hard, though. So, anyway, we're through that. We had a quick repair there while we were at it, and now we are onto the spider wave. So this one is a bit more mechanic heavy, and it generally gets a bit more mechanic heavy after the ice. So this one, what we have is a few things. You'll notice there I took a hover to this little web statue. You'll see it now lighting up. So these will randomly light up based on the ones that are unwebbed. You want to make sure when it says spider broodlings are coming, or whatever the phrase is, you'll see it in a little bit, that you stand by a lit pillar, because what that will do is stop these mini spiders from burning you down very quickly. You cannot survive them. Get in a light. The other thing you can do with those hovers, which you saw me just do just there, is you can obviously kill it anywhere. Pick up the little hover shit and then throw it at the pillar, and that will break down the web so that you can actually get through the wave, basically. My biggest advice is never break all of the web shields. Keep one still web, because if you unweb them all, you'll stun all the mobs, which in principle sounds good, but what that will also do is, all but one will get re-webbed. And what I mean by that is they're not lit, so that means that they can't be lit if the spiders come. And gives you limited chances to escape. It's randomized which is lit, so the more you have possible to light, the better your chance if shit gets real. You'll see a few mini-bosses. This one will have a boss spawn pretty soon after the ads that will put a negate on you and wrecking blow spam. Basic, move out the negate, make sure you kill the wrecking blow spam. We'll get to that when we get it. I'm waiting to see this other mechanic. We haven't had it yet. Normally what you'll do, and you will see it eventually, is you'll get a little spider can sometimes spawn next to the unwebbed ones. And what that spider will do is it will re-web any of the pillars. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for him. You don't want him really re-webbing that. It can cause you a few problems. It's a bit of a pain in the arse. So keep on top of the ones that are trying to web. Again, every time that those mini spiders come, stand next to the lit pillar. That can alternate during the spider phase. However, once you're in there 2 or 3 seconds, even though the spiders are still around, you will be safe. So you just have to stand in there a few seconds. You can then leave. There he is. There's the spider. So we'll kill him before he webs, but otherwise he would obviously re-web that platform, and a bit of a pain in the arse. I'll probably, for the sake of showing you, make sure that I light all the pillars up just to give you a general idea of what it does with the stun and things. I'd prefer not to, but I'll explain why when we get to the final boss. Anyway, we're going to stand next to the lit pillar here. Just make sure I don't die. And then you'll start seeing a lot of these Atronachs. So these Atronachs will spawn almost every wave. They hit pretty hard. Just to make sure you're shielded, or if your stamina blocking the heavy attack, and then kill it. I mean, it really is that simple. They do die pretty easily if you've got any half respectable damage. You can also kite it. You'll see me moving around a lot, but that's fine. So here we go. This is putting us on 1 pillar to go, I believe. So it should only be 1 more to go till they're all on lit. Let me find another hover for you in a sec, and we can show this mechanic for you. But for the ads, again, all single target. Keep your dots down on the floor, such as this AoE path or whatever class you're on. Doing our best to keep that down because it will make life easier. Actually, should have taken that last tour, but I don't know why I didn't do that. And always single targeting, keeping the AoEs on as many ads as possible. And we're going to get our mini boss here. So this is the Negator form, basically. Shit, we got Brooding at the same time. Pretty unfortunate. Let's get into safety real fast. Ignore the hard cast. And then, obviously, we have to be careful. We may not get the negate, but he will sometimes negate under you as a lightning AoE and the wrecking blow. There's a negate. So just roll dodge out of there. And yeah, then you're pretty fine to go. Doesn't hit that hard. It's just a negate that can be an annoyance if you are Magicka. If you're Stamina, it doesn't even matter, to be honest. You can just avoid it. But as Magicka, you've got to be careful. Again, we got this Atro. We're going to quickly stun him here, hopefully. There we go. So you see the stun there. We light all of the pillars, and that will stun all of the ads. And that really is every single ad, even if they're respawning. So you see this one spawning here, but it's automatically stunned. That will last about 10 seconds. After those 10 seconds, they will all web bar 1. So that is why I generally will not keep them lit. And it's important that you have all but 1 unlit for the final boss if you want to do it the sort of power tactic that I will suggest to you. Nothing else really going on here. The other mobs are very basic in this, by the way. The sort of general Jamora stuff. Nothing hits especially hard. Just these Atros and the main boss. We're going to get another mini-boss here. Very, very similar to the last one. Wrecking Blow Spam, AoE. This one doesn't have a negate. It's pretty much the same annoyance level. Not much of a worry. We're just going to kill him. Does throw some AoE poop at you or something there, but yeah, not much of a worry. Yeah, burn through all the ads. You're going to get 2 Atros pretty soon after we kill these. Just focus 1 down, keep your dots across both of them, and kite as much as possible. If you are Stamina, you're going to take a lot of damage here. Maybe utilize your roll dodge as much as possible. And again, just make sure you're standing in that yellow AoE when the fire is getting real, basically. Don't stand inside of that shit. Yeah, otherwise you're going to regret it. So, anyway. Atros spawning there. We are going to kill one of them, and then we're going to kill the other one soon after. You want to make sure you get rid of them. And life is going to be better then. So, at this point, you really want to have all but 1 unwebbed. And the reason we want that is the final boss is going to spawn. And this final boss, the stun is very powerful. So this final boss has a few different mechanics. A large AoE around it, the spider's still going on. It will have a small version of itself that is spawned, so it can throw poop at you to snare you pretty hard and hit pretty hard. There's the AoE. Make sure you get out of that. You can't block it. And then we're going to stun him instantly to drop all of our stuff on him and burn him as much as possible. You will probably not killing it, especially if your damage is low, you won't. I'm lagging like fuck, what the hell. And then we're going to kill that boss as soon as we can. And then you're going to see mechanics instantly after that stun phase. So an Atro will spawn next to him, and a spider will spawn next to him. If your damage is slow, kill the spiders. That snares builds up more and more. It gets very aggressive, so get rid of them. Another rule here is that if you don't unlight stuff, if your damage is especially slow, you can actually get to the point where the boss will one-shot you. So you need to make sure that you unweb these things. The boss's survivability and damage is based on the amount of time that it's not been stunned by. So keep those webs open, just break the Horvus next to it, and you will get through there no problem. Next wave is probably the one most people would call the most annoying wave. I don't think it's the hardest. I think the ice is the hardest. So if you've got through that, you're going to be good to go. But this one mechanically is definitely the most annoying because there's a little bit of RNG to a point in here. There's certain things that can cock you over. So, mobs in this. We have a few important ones. These ones are not the important ones. This is just some sort of junk shit. The first important one is an archer. What the archer will do is it can charge a channeled snipe, which you're seeing over there. It's very important, and I'll probably let one build up for you. That you interrupt that snipe. Again, it's just a bash, and that will get rid of the problem of the snipe. It won't do insane amounts of damage to you. Let's let this one do it. Hang on. I just want him to use the sniper. I'm just going to survive. Oh, another mechanic important... Shit. Another mechanic important to explain is what I'm doing here. So, stand next to those flowers, and you will get a poison AoE on you. You do not want that poison AoE. It hits insanely hard. If your stamina... you're probably screwed. And one big tip I would do as stamina in this wave, if you're having a lot of problems with the poison, is slot barrier as an ulti and just not use ulti as aggression. It can help a lot if you do get caught by a flower, because those flowers stick a very large dot on you. It's going to melt you very fast. As Magicka, spam shields, get to one of the 2 green waters. There's one on either side. The summoner that you see spawning there will automatically pop the flowers. So whenever he is spawned, he is your #1 priority. Get rid of the summoner as fast as possible, because he will break the flowers, and that can cause problems if you're in an awkward spot around them. It means you may get hit. The other thing that can also proc that poison, by the way, is the AoE you're seeing on the sniper right now. So what that will do, it's kind of fortunate timing really, is it will place a huge dot on you exactly the same as the poison, and it's cured in exactly the same way. Getting another summon here, you'll see I leave the arch completely, but keeping an eye on him. So there we actually get the snipe. We're going to interrupt that with a bash and kill him. It's important that you do get rid of the summoner first, in my opinion, but if your damage is slow, quickly bash and then turn your focus to the summoner. The trolls, by the way, have a sort of mini enrage. When they get low, if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll do this enrage here. They get a bit bigger, but to be honest, they're not really much of a worry. The archers and the poison is far harder hitting than the trolls. I wouldn't really worry about them. If you die to trolls, well, you probably wouldn't be on this wave at all. Don't hardcast like that, was stupid. Yeah, so just be careful of that. So the water, by the way, will spawn over time. You'll notice it's spawning again here. What that water does, again, is cure the poison. If you don't have water left and you get poisoned, you're gonna die. It's that simple. So try as much as possible to avoid the flowers. You should really avoid all the poison AoEs from the archers. I might let one hit me during this just to let you see what it does, but we'll see how running. This bit here, by the way, so this is the next wave. What we'll get is these 2 archers. These archers control the spawn of the next mini-boss, so make sure that you don't burn one with the other one at full health. It is better that you kill them both at similar times. As soon as one dies, you'll get this lizard spawn, and this lizard's a bit of a pain when you have an archer. So kill one and kill the other at the same time. Try AoE, sort of, but single target. This lizard will sort of do that build up there and would normally form a large lightning AoE around it that can hit incredibly hard. If you get that stomp, and most people will, step between the lightning AoEs, stay away from the boss to make that easier, and just avoid the damage. But again, if you focus the archers at the same time, rather than focusing one down then the other, your life is going to be 100 times easier. You aren't going to be getting hit by the AoE and a snipe, for example, or the AoE and a poison. It makes so much more space to move. So I really suggest using that mob control there. Just remember that once one archer dies, that ad is going to spawn. So be really careful not to force the spawn. Get them both down at similar times. So now what we're going to do is get this army of archers. You'll get 3 of them towards the end of this wave. Just keep an eye on all of them. It's all single target. Keep your dots down. Make sure you're interrupting. Keeping an eye out for the summoner. Speaking of which, you might get poison hit. Yep. Oops. Kill that summoner. And just keep an eye out for the snipes. If you do need to interrupt, quite simply do that. Make sure you bash. If it's in a flower, you have to debate. Can I burn that boss down quickly, or do I need to take the hit from the flower and get into the water? Sometimes you may not have a choice. But just get them down. After that, we get these 2 trolls. Again, just avoid the AoE. Keep moving around a bit. Burn through both of the trolls. They'll get their little enraged face, you know, like a hissy fit or some shit. And yeah, just kill them real fast. They're not much of a problem. They don't hit especially hard. And just remember that the next boss is coming. So if you need ulti, not a bad time to build it up. Get rid of the summon if you do get it. It's very important in this next wave. So, boss. A lot of mechanics. Firstly, it does a stomp that much similar to the giants in the ice wave. It will sort of stick rocks around it. That can hit pretty damn hard. So make sure you're shielded up when that connects or away from the boss. You'll see it there. It will burn through that shield. Secondly, the spit, which you'll see just on my right. Do not stand in that spit. It's an enormous dot. Thirdly, we're going to get 2 mages here. And what these mages are going to do is one of them will die, the other one will put a damage shield up. And the boss will do something that is technically interruptible there. You'll see the interrupt emote. And what that does is it does a huge amount of damage if you're outside the shield. So only kill 1 mage, stay in the shield of the second. After the shield ends, kill the first one, and you can carry on after that. But the reason I was saying don't interrupt the boss is if you interrupt the boss is going to one-bang you. It will get a huge enrage. If you can't kill it within, I think it's like 20 seconds, you're going to die. There is no way around it. No matter how much you shield, it will hit for like 60, 70k. You are going to die. Again, we're going to keep getting summoners for this boss, which you'll see spawning now. Burn through those summoners as much as possible, and then just refocus on the boss. You may honestly, if your damage is slow, get 2 waves. My damage is pretty slow here. I may even get 2 waves of the mages. Just make sure again that you only kill one, stay in the shield of the other, and you won't have problems. You can get some RNG. If a flower is in the shield, you're going to have to survive that. As stamina, you may have trouble, but pray for it. It can happen. If it does, essentially bad luck. You're going to have to go again. But generally, you're going to be okay and you're going to get through there. So, next one, fire round. This is actually a lot easier on both ice and poison. There's just one important thing to do, and that is careful with the mages, which you'll see coming fairly soon. What the mages will do is they will put sort of their hand in the air, start waving their stick. Sounds like some sort of innuendo right there, around in the air. And you want to make sure that you interrupt that, because if you don't interrupt that fire AoE, it is going to hit like a truck. I'm going to let him spawn it just behind me in a sec. There you go. So we're going to bash that. That will interrupt them and stop it. If you don't, you're going to die in 2 ticks of that fire. It's very hard. Don't stay in it. A few other mobs. You've got 2-handers, healers. I would generally prioritize mage, then healers, then the other shit. And you got the shorks as well. They don't hit especially hard. But then you get these mini bosses. And these mini bosses are controlled by the pillars. So when you kill a pillar, the boss will get stunned for about 3 seconds. And the damage shield on the boss will be removed. You have to kill these pillars before you can kill the boss. On some of those ones, you're also going to have ads. So generally, again, focus the fire ad before you even bother with that pillar. I would say, by the way, that the Atros hit pretty hard. You're going to want to make sure that your shield, especially for the fire thing, if your stamina, get ready to dodge, keep your vigor up and that sort of stuff in that fire wave, because it is a lot of damage. But you should be able to get through that if you do focus the mages down. It's important that you get rid of those mages. And again, same as every other wave, it is all about single targeting. Focus one mob at a time. Prioritize. If you do have a lightning AoE or any other AoE, place it across as many as possible, but generally focus one mob at a time. It's better to get rid of them piece by piece, in my opinion. You'll notice what I'm doing here. I'm going to quickly focus down the ads before I bother with the pillars. Once the ads are dead, I can then focus that pillar. I'm going to place my AoE, by the way, across the pillar and the boss. It's just going to save me a bit of time, because that way when the pillar dies, I can instantly focus the boss like so. We'll ignore the fact that I've hardcasted again. Bit buggy at the moment on frags. Don't know why. And anyway, we can use ulti, Sid, by the way. Don't feel that you have to hold back on your ulti until round 4. So after the round 3 Atro, I would suggest keeping an ulti for round 4, and I'll explain why. So this way, if we're not going to use an ulti, it's nice to have at the start of round 4, especially at the start. No mage at the start spawn here, so we can focus the healers. 2-hander sort of dies itself, not much worry. I just don't want the healers kind of harassing the score and all that. And then we're going to get 2-handers and a healer here. So you can focus down the healer. And then after this wave, we're going to get to the right-hand side. That's sort of the west. We're going to get a mage in the corner, as well as a shork on the opposite side. And another Atro. So we're going to go over to the mage in the west. We're going to kill him before anything else. We don't want him doing that cast. It's very hard. Get rid of that guy. It's very important to do so. Then you can kill the pillar. The shork doesn't matter. It's going to die anyway. Just ignore it. Burn down the pillar and then focus down the boss. There goes the shork, by the way. Make sure you get down the boss ASAP. And yeah, you're basically good then. So it's not too bad, to be honest. Atro died, and this is why we've saved the ulti. So in this next bit, we're going to get 2 flame mages. It is important that you are ready to burn one of them down fast, because if they both cast the thing you need to interrupt, you got a problem. So we're going to dump an ulti on the first one, burn him down as quickly as remotely possible. He's dead there just as he's casting, and that way we can focus the second. If they do get their cast, make sure, like so, you interrupt, and then you can just burn through and then focus the healers. If your damage is really terrible, you may want to try focus the healers first, otherwise they might cause you problems, and really keep an eye out for the interrupt. That's going to be super hard though, so it's much better if you could at least burst one of those mages down before the healer. If you've only got one, it's alright to interrupt, but yeah, otherwise it's tough. So we get another mini boss here. This one's a bit more complicated than the Atros. This one has a few mechanics. We say the fire conal AoE, the fire breath that we see there, neither of those too much of a problem, though the fire breath can hit fairly hard. And we get this banner, the whip, and also a chain. When he drops the banner, he will almost always chain afterwards. Be ready to roll dodge or block that chain, or you will go in the banner. It hits very hard. The boss dies easy, same as before, kill a pillar. Final boss. Burn a pillar down as fast as possible. Place all your dots on one. Move to the second pillar. Focus that down as much as you can. And then finally move to the third pillar. If you don't kill the pillars fast, you will get some ads spawn. Focus the ads before the boss. But if you can kill the pillars fast enough, which I am doing now, you can drop all your dots onto the boss like so. And you can burn through that boss especially quick. If you don't get through it instantly, which I may not hit. I did get an ad, so we'll focus it slowly. Maybe I'll get through. Just about with the dots. You will get those ads. It's mostly mages. Make sure you keep on top of them. Keep them interrupted. Kill them. But it's just mostly about making sure that you kill those 3 pillars as fast as possible, because they will control the ad spawn. If you burn the pillars fast, the boss gets stunned and you can focus the boss with a lot of damage. It may take you a few goes, but as long as you keep the pillars dying quick, you're going to be fine. If not, focus the ads, then the pillars. Final round. So in a sec, you are going to see a lot. This is what we call the ghost orgy spawning around us. The blue ones, stay away from them. They will CC you, not CC you, they'll snare you, hit a decent amount of damage. You don't want to get hit with them. The gold ones, however, will also buff your damage. They will buff your chance to stun the enemies if you get 3 of them. They'll buff your resistances. They are very worth taking. So keep an eye out for those gold ones. They spawn exactly the same time every time. Grab them up. They're going to help you out. So keep on top of those. They do make life easier. So we kill those. Different mobs here. So you've got healers. Mages aren't too bad. You'll get summoners in the later round. But this is your big one, the Daedroth. The Daedroth does a large fire breath, which you'll see there. I'll let one of those hit me in a bit and show you exactly how to deal with that mechanic. If you can focus those Daedroths down quickly, your life is going to be 1,000-fold easier. That Daedroth is extremely hard to survive, okay? Another mechanic, by the way, you'll see there. Again, we do get those archers need to be interrupted, so just keep an eye out for that. Again, we're going to keep on top of those ghosts and grab that. So, anyway, back onto the Daedroth. So, whilst we're on the easy bit here, all of these mobs are pretty basic. You just burn through them. So with these Daedroths, what you're going to get is you're going to get this fire breath in front of them. The best way to deal with that, if you can't burn it, is to kite the AoE. So stay right next to the boss, and you'll see it on this one here, hopefully. Never mind, I got a stun. I'm actually going to use that. So we're going to kill him with the stun, like so. So that's if you get this free ghost, you can stun. And again, same way it will carry through to the next wave if you do have spawns coming. The best way is to kite that AoE very carefully. Stay next to the boss, follow the loop of the fire, stay as close as you can and keep moving around DPSing. You can avoid all the damage if you do that. I've also been told it's blockable, so if you do have a lot of stam, you can block it. It's going to be expensive though, especially with the other ads, so reconsider it. I like kiting it personally. We'll do it on this one. Let's just DPS a bit slower, get a fire breath. Shit, I DPS'd it too fast. I promise I'll get one of them to do it. Whilst we're waiting for another Daedroth to spawn, they do spawn generally at the start or the end of the waves. We also have another hard-hitting mob, and that's the Ogrim. So the Ogrim is something... Oh, hang on, we should do that after the mini-boss. So mini-boss in the middle here, it doesn't do much. It's just got Wrecking Blow and AoE. You can kill this one exceptionally fast. It doesn't do anything really. The Ogrim, as I was saying, has a few different mechanics. It has the Fire Breath, which you see there. Just avoid the AoE on that. It can be CC'd, and Dawnbreaker will also CC and hit it very hard. But what it can also do if it gets low is it will do a spit on you, and then it will sort of knock you back, stun you, and hit very hard, and then heal itself. Careful of that knockback. It hits very hard. You've seen there, by the way, what I meant by fire kiting. So I stand next to the Daedroth, kite around the loop that it's gone with, and that way we are minimizing the damage we're taking from the fire and makes life easier. Okay, so round 4, pretty easy this one actually. There's not much going on here. We get these summoners. So what these summoners will do is if they get to that center thing and are there for a long time, they will summon a very, very hard boss in the middle. If you get that, you're essentially stuffed. You can get through it, but I would really suggest don't let the summoners get this. If your damage is slow, prioritize summoners unless there's a Daedroth alive. Get rid of them, because you don't really want them summoning that ad. You're going to die if you get it. It's very, very hard hitting, very hard to kill, and a bit of a nightmare. We're always going to focus Daedroth, so even if there is a summoner, Daedroth should be your priority. Again, you'll see fire kiting here. Just kite him around nice and close. Grab our gold ghost. Oh shit, I missed it. So what happens when an enemy gets a gold ghost, by the way, is they'll get a resistance buff. A little harder to kill, but it doesn't change much. It's just better you get it for yourself for the self buff. The final section of this, which we'll get in a sec, you'll get 2 summoners and an Ogrim. It's up to you how you approach this round. You can either focus the Ogrim fast to kill it to get rid of the damage, which it can hit hard, or you can do what I generally do, which is to kill 1 summoner, then the Ogrim, and then repeat. So for the sake of you guys, I'm going to kill the Ogrim first, then we'll focus the summoners. You can do that, no problem, if your damage is good. If your damage is slow, I would suggest killing 1 summoner, then killing the Ogrim, and then really keep an eye on that second summoner. Make sure it doesn't get the summon up. So, second and last round till we're done with this whole dungeon. This is going to spawn a massive, massive Daedroth in the air, and I'll make sure I show you all the mechanics. So far, I've shown you everything that needs to be shown, at least briefly. We'll get 1 Daedroth and a sort of Siphoner spawn here. That Siphoner, by the way, can do sort of a soul tether. It can stun you. If you get them with a fire, you may get stuffed. So really careful of that AoE. You can block it. Be careful. But anyway, we're going to get the Daedroff. If you do have a stun, it's very helpful to use that there. You can burn through the boss very fast. I'm going to slow off the DPS towards the end here just to make sure I can show you what it does. So we're just going to stop DPSing. Hopefully my AoE doesn't kill him. Please, please, please. Okay, we're fine. You'll see a knockback there, and then what it'll do is release a large fire AoE around you. Just make sure you go in front of the one to the right, so you get this sort of mixed layers, and roll dodge through the center, and that way you can avoid all the damage. If you can burst that down. It does help to do so. But then after that, you'll get these few archers. Again, keep an eye out for the interrupts. The snipe is a one-shot. Careful, careful, careful of those. But again, even before that, the Daedroff's got to go. They're a big, big problem in the whole dungeon. Careful of them. No summoners in this. We do finish off with an Ogrim. Nice and easy to kill. And yeah, after that, you're basically set to go. So just burn through the Ogrim real fast. And final boss time. So final boss goes upstairs after 75%, and you'll see exactly how that works in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is, if we can, pressurize the boss as much as possible. Get him down ASAP. He's going to have a few different attacks. The first one you see is a heavy attack there. That is blockable or dodgeable. I generally pick the dodge. It mixes up depending how much stamina I have. Don't get hit by it, basically. After it reaches 70% health, you're going to get a Clownfear spawn. You want to take that to the portal like so. Kill it on the portal, and that will let you use the portal to go upstairs. And then we get this section here. So again, the boss has heavy attacks. Up here, we have 3 different crystals. What you need to do is kill these crystals to get back downstairs for the final phase of the boss. Try kill these as fast as possible, but keep an eye on the mechanics. You'll see in the center there, we'll get that big disc. We have to make sure that we hide behind that disc during the stun phase, which is the phase we just had there. After the first, he'll do 2 heavy attacks. We've dodged the first. Let's dodge the second. And then we can burn the crystals down again, which we've nearly done. And then we'll get knocked downstairs. If your damage is slow, the spinners, the sort of the disc thing that protects us, do get faster, but it's not too bad. Anyway, we see another mechanic there from the boss. That is one that you need to interrupt. So we do that there. We make sure we interrupt the boss. And the final one there, the channel heavy attack, which we avoid. He does also have an AoE. I don't know whether we'll see that. And focus him down. If your damage is slow, by the way, you can kill the ad here. You may also get a Daedroff. If you get the Daedroff, prioritize it over the boss. But if you are very slow, take the free gold ghost. If you can stun this boss, you're set to go. If you can get free gold ghost, you'll stun the boss. Once the boss is stunned, you've essentially finished the wave because you'll be able to kill him no problem. So there we go. We get a decent score. Not too bad considering I was doing a lot of talking at the same time. And this is where we get the loot. So if there's any questions through the trial, obviously you can ask me anytime. Obviously the loot you get the Maelstrom Fire Staff, Lightning Staff, Ice Staff. You've got 2-hander axe, mace, sword. The dagger and the axe pretty popular. The one-hand shield kind of sucks. The rest though kind of sucks compared to Master. But nothing too bad there. I only really need like a sharp and one-handed weapon, so a dagger or an axe. I'm missing one of those. And I think the Fire Staff. Yeah, the Fire Staff's the one I'm mostly after. So we'll look at this, and we get 2 Maelstrom axes. Traits suck dick though, so we'll get rid of those. And yeah, I mean, that's the general idea. You can get dicked over on the traits, but to be honest, it's an enjoyable dungeon. If you get the mechanics down, it's really not that bad to run it. With practice, you can get it down pretty fast. We're doing it in about 45 minutes. I reckon I average about 40. I've never done it under 40 yet, but it's right on the borderline of 40, 41, so pretty good. We're going to be fine on the weekly score. And the weekly score, by the way, will control your chance to get another loot. So if you're in the top 100 for your weekly class, whatever class that may be, it's Dragon Knight, Templar, Sork, Nightblade, you name it, you can get a decent loot from the weekly reward. That will obviously give you another chance of getting whatever items you're after, so it can help a bit. But the general mechanics are there. I've explained as much as I can. Obviously, I did do it with a decent DPS. But if you have any questions about any mechanics that I may have not covered or covered briefly, I think I covered everything. Just ask away.